Arcade Heroes.
Get ready!
Greetings, it's Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and here's a video I meant to make earlier in the week, but I've been kind of sick with something that caused me to lose my voice since last week. And then on this weekend, I was rear-ended by some moron who was texting while driving. And fortunately, I'm mostly okay. Got a concussion, whiplash, and all that fun stuff. But it's made recovery and talking a little more difficult than usual. I'd also be doing this in OBS normally, but OBS is turning into total garbage, and it doesn't work on this brand new laptop that I have, and it barely works on the desktop where it used to. But anyways, let's get you up to speed with EVO Japan 2025, where there were several new game announcements, mainly from Exa Arcadia. There were some other companies with arcade stuff or arcade adjacent things, such as Sega showing off their new console version of Virtua Fighter 5, or the new Virtua Fighter Revival, I think it's called, coming along. Bandai Namco did have the arcade version of their Gundam Extreme vs. Overboost 2, or whatever that one's exactly called. And Taito had some related things, although they were at EVO Japan 2024 with Street Fighter 6, but they did not have a booth this year with Street Fighter 6. By all accounts that I've heard, is Street Fighter 6 Arcade Edition has been a total dud and hasn't earned very well. And where Exa Arcadia is going to be the main subject of this particular video, they've had plenty of games that don't have the name recognition of Street Fighter, but they've been outperforming Street Fighter 6, such as like Axel City 2, which has been out for a while on the Exa, has outperformed Street Fighter 6. So not exactly what you want out of your brand new games. But let's get into these new games. So here was the Exa Arcadia booth at EVO Japan. It does seem like it was a bit smaller than the one from 2024, but they still had 8 different cabinets there, although they were set up versus style, so in essence 4 games. And they also did have some spaces elsewhere on the show floor running some of their already released games, and so I believe their booth that was seen there a moment ago was more focused on the newer stuff, whereas tournaments for other games like Samurai Showdown 5 Perfect and Chaos Code Nemesis Experiment, which actually hasn't been released yet but is coming soon, and Dynamite Bomb and Axel City 2, etc., were all at these other areas, which I think were set aside for tournaments. But overall, again, Exa did have quite a few games that they announced this year. Now, compared to the year previous, I would say that the games that have been announced are more on the obscure side, but if you hold on a moment, first we're going to talk about the news, and then I'm going to get into the logistics or the economics as to why they are focusing so much on these more obscure titles as opposed to brand new stuff or doing Street Fighter or Tekken or whatever. And so for these games, there was 8 total games that have been unveiled at the show. And for the most part, the trailers that were showed off on the Exa live stream and on X were all very teasery. They weren't gameplay videos. And so with like the Martial Masters and Rumblefish 2 and Spectral vs. Generation Chaos and Tattoo Assassins and Rabbit Martial Masters, Fallen Angels Revenge, they really didn't show any gameplay at all. It was just, I mean, in the case of Tattoo Assassins, I was kind of surprised that it was just the logo, that there wasn't even showing any of the characters. But for most of those other games that I mentioned, the trailers, as we're kind of seeing here, was just showing off stuff like what characters you can expect. Now, one that I know some people are really happy to hear about was Fallen Angels Revenge, because this is actually one of the first games that was announced by Exa Arcadia back when it was first hitting the scene. And it's just been kind of lingering there on their website for like 6 years now. And I've occasionally had people asking me, hey, do you know what's going on with this? And every time I've asked Exa, they say that they're working on it, but compared to the other remakes, it's far more involved and costly. I guess you could say time-consuming and costly, or costly from both time and a money perspective, because the characters have something like 900 frames of animation each, and that has to be completely redrawn by hand by an artist or artists. And so that's just been very time consuming, but it looks like it's finally going to be hitting the scene. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is, it was designed by Saikyo, by some people that had worked on King of Fighters, I believe it's 98, maybe 97, or just some of the same team members. And that's why it kind of looks like a King of Fighters game if you've ever seen footage of it. But it was never fully finished and never given a wide release. I think it would be technically classified as a prototype. And that could apply to other games too. Like Tattoo Assassins was definitely never finished. And so that's what it looks like they're going to be doing here, is actually finishing the game, polishing it up. I don't know what kind of changes it's going to have and if it'll be able to make it into a much better game than what it tested like back in the day. But we'll just have to wait and see. But that also would be the case of the very obscure game like Rabbit. Now, again, in a moment, I'll put a timestamp here as to why on earth would Exa Arcadia be focusing on all these obscure games as opposed to trying to put a Street Fighter on there. But they did show off gameplay from 2 games. And so in particular, you had Yotto Battlers, which I had to use a translator at first, and then I asked Exa, and they were able to get back to me, which is based on a 1997 DOS game, or 98, somewhere around there. Late 90s, obscure DOS game fighter that was known in the West as Fightin' Jokes. And I even looked for this one on some DOS game websites, and it didn't even appear there, so that shows you how obscure it is. But Yotto Battlers is going to be a budget title, which means that once it's released, it's going to be in the realm of like close to Donut Dodo Do's price, which is somewhere around $700-800 for the kit. And this would be obviously targeting a younger audience, and just trying to appeal to them with the bright colors and goofy characters, very goofy characters in that sense. And then there was Blazing Strike AC, where this had the longest trailer out of all of them. And it is a more serious fighter that reminds me of Chaos Code. I have a Chaos Code Exa label, or not Exa label, just Chaos Code Exa, sorry. And a lot about that and the style remind me of that particular game. But I know there are some differences, so I don't know what the best game would be to compare it to. Now, I looked up Blazing Strike on Steam, and it has mixed reviews, most of them negative. And I'm guessing from the sounds of it, from reading those reviews, is it sounds like the developers had promised a bunch of stuff and they didn't live up to those promises. And so a lot of people, sounds like, might have even been crowdfunded, but a lot of people were very hopeful as to what it would deliver and just ended up disappointed because it didn't do that. And so what the Exa version is promising to do is to essentially live up to those. But again, I don't know what those promises were exactly, but the Exa version should be the ultimate version of the game that plays better and again fixes certain problems. I know it'll also have a redesigned graphics and sound engine as well. And I like the music that was playing in the trailer for this one. But yeah, and then this one will also have be on the lower end of the price scale. And so that's one thing is Exa moved their manufacturing out of China a long time ago. And so they haven't had to be worrying about the tariff stuff that's been going on. Of course, as I say this right, or I record this right now, there's the pause on what's going on with China there, and so who knows how that'll end up. But I mean, it's looking like it's not going to be quite like the sky is falling, as some people were saying. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see what the end prices will be. But that was EVO Japan. Which of these 8 games would you like to see? If there was an arcade near you that could house them, what would you go out and play? Or if you're a collector that has some cash to spend, is there anything that you would grab from that? And is there anything of a big name that you would like to see Exa carry? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll catch you on the next video.